How often or when was the last time a man opened up to you and was vulnerable?
Never.
Not very often.
Never. My partner has never opened up to me, and I've been with him 4 years.
Mostly it's men that watch this channel, but every now and then a woman will reach out to me and want to have a private consultation. Recently I had a session with a woman in her early 20s. Very sweet, very sincere, and she wanted my advice on the best way to live. She wanted to pick my brain on what choices she should be making. She's interested in self-improvement, she wanted to be the best version of herself, and she wanted to make sure she was on track to become a high-quality woman. Now, in her quest, she had spent months and months online looking at all types of various content, trying to find out exactly what it was that men expected of her. If she was to be a high-quality woman in the eyes of men, how specifically should she behave? Now, as you might guess, this was a reasonably strange conversation. I've never really had one like this before, where a woman is just plain asking, what do I need to do to be more appealing to your gender? On the one hand, I found her approach really inspiring and quite encouraging, because you've got this woman who's taking her self-development journey so seriously. The fact that she was so sincere and she was willing to work tirelessly to make sure that she was going to be a good partner to her future man, that made me really happy. But it also made me sad, because as authentic and genuine as her intentions were, she was having a lot of trouble finding out exactly what she should be doing, because there was so much mixed messages online. It wasn't clear to her exactly what was expected of her. She told me that she'd read material that said any woman who makes you wait for sex isn't worth it. But in the same vein, she'd also read heaps of material that said any woman who sleeps with you too quickly is not long-term relationship material. She told me that she'd watch videos where men would say that they expect women to stay at home and to raise the children and to be there for her man as he goes out and actually financially supports the family. But there was also videos that railed against how lazy and selfish modern women were when they expect men to provide all of the money. Some men were critical of women wearing makeup, saying it's false advertising, it's a false appearance, whereas other men were furious that women didn't put effort into their appearance anymore. All of these mixed messages actually created a genuine sense of anxiety for this woman, because she so sincerely wanted to do the right thing, but she had no idea what the right path was. After talking to her, I realized that there might be a lot of women who are in that same boat, who want to do better in the eyes of men, but aren't entirely clear on what that looks like. So this is a video for those women. It's 10 simple things that I think is reasonable for a man to expect from a woman. Now, I certainly don't want to perpetuate any kind of sense that the goalposts are always going to be shifting and that this is an unwinnable battle for women. In my mind, that's not at all the purpose of this channel. I have no interest in hating on women at all. I want us to get along. I want men and women to cooperate and have healthy, functional relationships. But men are struggling. The dating market is hard, and it's confusing and difficult to often know what is the right thing to do in a relationship. And there's this sense that we're suffering and we're struggling with it alone, that women don't really take the time to understand what it's like for men. But there are women who do care. They might be a small minority, but they sincerely want to know what this is like from the male's perspective, and they want to do what they can to contribute to a positive dynamic. And so this is a video, just 10 simple things that I think it's reasonable for men to expect from women. Number 1, admit your hypergamy. I am not asking you to deny your biological instincts. You're attracted to tall, wealthy, successful, attractive men. That's fine. But this widespread cultural gaslighting has to stop. Us men, we admitted that we like young, beautiful, fertile women a long time ago. It's superficial, but yes, we own that. I understand that it is uncomfortable for you to admit that a man with money and power is attractive, but to deny the true factors that drive your attraction and to lie to young men is encouraging them to go out into the world with false information, and that's cruel. You are hypergamous. That's fine. I'm not asking you to change that. I'm just asking you to admit it, to be honest about it. That way we stop sending young men out into the wilderness with a completely inaccurate map. Number 2, don't lead men on. I know that it gives you a self-esteem boost to have all of these orbiters, men who fancy you, men who are kind to you, men who do you favors. It makes you feel good about yourself, makes you feel desirable. But the price of propping up your ego is being paid for by a man who falsely believes that he has a romantic chance with you. You know that he sees you as more than just a friend. So be honest with him. I'm not asking you to date these guys. You don't have to do that. Nice guy syndrome is real, and simps and orbiters are not attractive. I get why you don't want to date them. I'm just saying, please be honest. Number 3, understand that monogamy is hard for men. Males do have a paternal instinct. We do have the ability to pair bond, and most men do desire a long-term monogamous relationship. But please understand that we also have strong instincts telling us to spread our seed. As an evolutionary strategy, our bodies incentivize us to find lots and lots of women attractive. We didn't ask for it to be this way. That's just how evolution crafted us. I'm not asking you to tolerate men having affairs or to accept polygamy. Just because men have the desire for something doesn't mean we're entitled to that. We should be exercising self-control. But please, show some sympathy and some understanding. Monogamy, just having sex with you and only you for our entire lives, that's hard. That's a sacrifice. It goes against strong biological instincts that we have. And while we are happy to do it because we recognize that's what's best, that sacrifice would be made so much easier if you just appreciated what we were doing. Number 4, stop giving men dating advice. I understand that this is a generalization and that some of you might find this offensive. But truthfully, women on the whole, you don't really understand what you're attracted to. Your self-awareness in this area is pretty limited, and often the personality characteristics that you claim to be attracted to run in complete contradiction to the men in your dating history. I know that it feels good to play the role of the big sister and to be helping out your male friend with some dating advice, but more often than not, the purpose of your advice is not actually to help him, but to make you appear noble and virtuous. And the price of that is that he goes out into the world with terrible information and gets more miserable and more depressed. When a man asks you for dating advice, that is not an opportunity for virtue signaling. Please recognize your own limitation in this area. Tell him, I have no experience dating women. I'm a woman. What you need to do is go and seek advice from a man who's been successful at dating women. Number 5, take responsibility for the bad men that you date. For any women out there who have suffered abuse in an intimate relationship, please know you have my compassion. I'm under no delusions at all. There are awful men out there, I guarantee it, and there are genuine female victims. But if a relationship turns toxic, the chances that you are 100% innocent and he is 100% guilty is very, very low. Abuse is never, ever okay. But if you cry victim at every unkind word or every small argument, it begins to dilute the meaning of the word victim. The effect of that is that it reduces the compassion we have available for genuine victims of abuse. If the narrative of your relationships is consistently that you are 100% innocent and all the men turned out to be abusive jerks, then you have some self-reflection to do. Romantic relationships are voluntary, and you chose to be in a relationship with that man. Most women who date these guys who turn out to be jerks, they do so because in the beginning they were appealing to her superficial characteristics. They were cocky, funny, good looking. This happens to men too. We date hot women because we're idiots and we ignore the signs that they're mentally unstable. But you have to take responsibility for your romantic choices. Nobody forced you to ignore the nice guy on the sidelines and date the exciting, dangerous jerk guy. You did that. And while he is responsible for his abusive behavior, please recognize that you are responsible for choosing him in the first place. Number 6, check your privilege. Men will own up to the privileges that we have in society. There are lots of circumstances and situations where men have it a lot easier than women, and anyone who denies that is delusional. But in the dating market, the privilege is with women. It is biologically gifted to you. For every egg a woman has, a man has 100 million sperm. And it feels that way in the dating market, that every desirable woman can choose between 100 million eager men. You have the options, you have the power, you have the luxury of all of these men actively pursuing you. You have it so good that even without any effort on your part, you still have a number of options for you to choose from. Now, I'm not asking you to give up that privilege. This is just one of those areas where you got the long end of the stick and it makes part of that balance. But please stop pretending that your struggles to attract that one specific high quality guy is in any way equivalent to the struggles faced by average men on the dating market every day. There is no comparison, and you'll never comprehend how difficult it is to be a man in the dating market. From your position of privilege, you could never imagine how it feels. And all I'm asking is that you acknowledge that. Number 7, become comfortable with male emotions. I understand that seeing a man be weak and vulnerable is not very attractive. Sometimes it's even scary. On a gut, biological level, you're counting on men to be your protection. So when you see him be weak and vulnerable, emotionally, that can send you into a panic. I get that. And trust me, men don't really want to be emotional. We don't like emotions. We'd rather watch a comedy than a tear-jerking drama. But hear me when I say that every man will need emotional support from his girlfriend at some point. It could be a health crisis. It could be a lost job. It could be rediscovering all this unprocessed childhood trauma. At some point, he needs to emotionally express himself. He may need to cry, and he wants you to be there for him. So please, put aside your discomfort and access some of that feminine, nurturing energy that you can give so effortlessly towards children and direct it at your man. Trust me, it's not going to last forever. Men don't want to feel weak and vulnerable. They don't want to be lost in emotions. He's going to want to get out of that space as quickly as possible. So believe me when I say that if he's asking for help, he really needs it. Number 8, stop shaming our sexuality. I know that male sexuality can seem strange to you because you've got this female sexuality, and it's difficult for you to imagine what it's like being a man, to desire sex so frequently and to be into all this bizarre stuff. It all seems weird and unrelatable to you, but men and women are different, and you don't need to understand something in order to be able to respect that difference. As a woman, you feel emotionally close to a man when he says nice things to you, when he does nice gestures for you. And that closeness makes you want to have sex with him. For men, it often happens in the reverse order. Having sex with him makes him want to say nice things to you and to do nice gestures for you. Now, the imagined female superiority that you have, as though your order of doing things is best and how you conduct relationships is superior, that is just an imagined fact. That's not objective. This is your female-centric subjective reality saying that the way you do it is better than men, but that's not true. The male way is just as valid. Just because men desire sex does not mean that we are shallow. Words like pervert to describe normal, healthy male sexual drives is not acceptable. Male sexuality is just as valid as female sexuality. And even though the culture is going to look the other way, that does not mean that it's appropriate for you to shame male sexuality. Number 9, be kind when rejecting men. Women don't really understand what it's like for a young man to approach a woman, some beautiful girl that he finds attractive, and to have the courage to ask for her phone number. It's terrifying. And just because he isn't confident or attractive doesn't mean the fact that he's hitting on you and asking for your phone number, that doesn't make him a creep. He's just some shy, awkward kid having a go. You may think that you're way out of his league, and maybe you are, but please, in your rejection, be gentle. A really harsh rejection from a woman can shame a man so deeply that he becomes too frightened to ever approach women again. When a man asks you out, that is a moment of intense vulnerability for him. So please be gentle, please be kind. And I understand that it might be embarrassing if he's doing it in public and you're worried that other people are going to see him do this and you're going to have that feeling of, oh gosh, do people think that he has a chance with me? That's how low value woman I am. I get that. But in that moment, the slight wound to your pride is nowhere near the fear that he is encountering in actually approaching you. So swallow your pride, put the damper down on your ego and show some compassion and do what's right for him. Reject him, but please be kind about it. And lastly, number 10, value the male contribution. The truth is that we men like taking responsibility for our families. We like doing the planning, making the choices, making the money. We like taking that higher perspective, looking at the big picture so that you and the kids are safe to just enjoy the little moments of life. If you ask most guys if they would choose to reduce their stress by working less and have their wife go back to work, most of them would say, no. Yes, there'd be more money, but he wants you to enjoy your time with the children. That's positive for him. He likes financially providing for the family. So even though that's what men want to do, that doesn't mean that it's often not really hard. Sometimes we look on with envy at how much time you get to spend at home and spend with the children, to not have to constantly worry about all the financial stresses and to be thinking about the big picture all the time. It makes it so much easier on men if the women in their lives show some appreciation. A little gratitude goes a really long way to let us know that you see how hard we're working to provide for you and for the children, that's seen and appreciated. That's massive. That gives us the strength that we need to keep going. And that's it. That's my list. That's 10 simple things that I think women could do that would greatly reduce the feeling of loneliness and alienation that men have, that feeling that women don't really care about the struggles we face in our world. Perhaps you've noticed that none of these actually require you to make significant changes to who you are or how you operate. It's mostly just a request for more understanding. I think that they're all completely reasonable expectations. And I'll end by saying this. I don't think that it's a one-way street. I'm not saying that all of this empathy and understanding needs to flow from women to men in a vacuum. Men need to be making the exact same effort to understand and appreciate the female contribution. My hope and goal with this channel is to reduce unnecessary conflict in relationships by simple gender misunderstandings. I just think everybody's life is going to get so much better if men work to understand women better and women work to understand men better. We're so different. Men and women are so different, but that's beautiful. That's fantastic. That's what makes life interesting and dynamic. I don't think that it has to be a source of conflict. It's only when we misunderstand those differences do things become heated. So again, to all of the women who watch my channel, who have made the effort to get this far into the video and are still watching, thank you. Simply by watching this video, I can see you're making an effort to understand things from the male perspective. I think that that's an awesome start, and I want to let you know that I really appreciate it. Should you be worried about hypergamy? Is there a genuine danger that the girl that you're dating is going to leave you for a better man? That's the topic of my latest video. In this video, I explain the internet culture that has propagated this idea of inevitable hypergamy, that a woman is guaranteed to leave you, and I explain where I differ. I talk about the evidence that you should be looking at if you're worried that your partner is going to leave you for someone else. I talk about why it's not normal for women to leave and the various reasons why women stay in relationships. I give the 2 explanations for why a woman might monkey branch, and if it's happened to you in the past, what you can do differently in the future. And lastly, I explain why you don't need to be the best of all of the men in order to satisfy a woman's hypergamy. For every video that I post here on YouTube, I post an additional bonus video on my Patreon page. That means that at the moment, you're only seeing half of the total content that I create. If you want access to the other half, then please go and sign up at my Patreon. It's just a $5 a month subscription and you get instant access to a whole bunch of exclusive content. It's a wonderful way to support the channel and I would love to see you over there.